guys, it's Housewife in Heels. So today I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of materials at Louboutin, or I should say the most commonly accessible and readily available materials. I'm not going to be discussing things like, say, the embossed snake print or just unusual out there different kinds of things, since those aren't really readily available and not terribly common, and no one really needs information about those unless you're a very specific buyer. But we're going to be discussing the patent, the suede, and the Nappa leather materials that are available. I think that mostly everybody who would want a Louboutin has access to these different materials. And if push comes to shove and you don't have access to just buy them off the counter, then these are always readily available on Louboutin.com or on even Marcus Sachs or wherever it is, your online retailer that carries Louboutins will have these materials. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, what is really going to make or break your experience in a Louboutin shoe is going to be the shape of your foot. So the experience can definitely be impacted by the material, but it's really going to come down to the shape of your foot and which material works best for that shape. Now, for instance, I have a very narrow foot. I'm one of those people that just has a skinny foot, so I tend to get away with being able to wear a lot of the footwear with a particular level of ease at Louboutin, which most people don't have. I'm very grateful for that. But because I have a narrow foot, my issues tend to be heel slippage or just incorrect sizing, because most of the time you're always having a size up. I tend to go down half size at Louboutin. But that's besides the point. That means my particular issues when it comes to buying footwear in general is that I want something that feels very secure. I don't want a whole lot of wiggle room in my shoe. And because I'm having to accommodate length rather than width, that can make things kind of tricky for me. So I tend to want things that aren't going to stretch, don't have a lot of give, and this is why my favorite material at Louboutin is the patent. Now, not only does it work out for someone like myself with a narrow foot, but that means with a patent, I can be harder on these shoes. I don't have to be as mindful about each step that I take wearing them. They're not going to get terribly beat up on the teeny little stiletto heel if that's the style that you're getting. I like stilettos because I like a dainty shoe, but that's just me. So these don't have a terrible amount of give. They do give after a while. They do stretch after a while, but it's not going to be a terrible amount of freedom of movement. It's not going to give you wiggle room, so to speak. So these are definitely for someone if you're someone who has a narrow foot like me, you could definitely get away with patents if you have an average foot, but that's where you need to be mindful about style. That's a whole different video, so we're just going to talk about materials today. So long story short, if you have an average foot, you can get away with patent, but you have to be mindful about style. I have a whole bunch of videos regarding what styles might work for you, so check those out. So pros and cons. Pros, great for narrow feet. Pros, very durable. They're not going to get dinged up on you pretty easily. Cons, they're the least restrictive. They tend to take the longest to break in. And that can mean it takes a long time to make them comfortable for most people. Now, the least restrictive of the bunch, the arguably most comfortable, would be the suede. Now, the suede, this is the Angelina for reference, no longer available. I was a lucky little person to be able to acquire these when I did. But the suede is going to have the most amount of give. Now, I've had these for a while, but if you notice, I've hardly worn them, and that's because with me having narrow feet, I don't want these to break in and expand too quickly because I'm afraid of these becoming too big on me once they get broken in and the leather stretches. Now, if you're someone who has, say, an average to a wider foot, this might be a material for you. Now, the only thing that kind of sucks about this material is that it's very delicate, it's fragile, definitely the most fragile out of the lot. Like, I have to spray these down with a suede protectant, and even then, they never wind up looking totally perfect. You can see in that toe box right there, a little ding, and I've hardly worn them. Beautiful shoes, but I have to be very, very mindful when I wear these, especially because of my foot shape. My foot has a higher likelihood of slipping out as the leather wants to stretch on me. So these are definitely for someone with an average to wider foot. Your number one priority when you're getting a pair of Louboutins is being able to get use out of them. You want the easiest break in. You're wanting comfort, comfort, comfort. Then the suede would be it for you. Now, this material has pleasantly surprised me. It's definitely one of my preferred materials. I would definitely buy this material again. And it is the Nappa leather. Now, when I first got these, I was a little bit nervous that the leather was gonna kind of get eaten up just from me walking around. I'm not always mindful when I wear heels just because I wear them so often, but these have been worn. Now, I will say I managed to get away with wearing these, not necessarily because of the material, but because the style, it's a style that's friendlier to narrow feet. But what's nice about Louboutin is that a lot of their core styles can come in multiple materials. So let's say you're someone who has a very narrow foot. You can get away with, say, a Suede, which is arguably their most narrow style, in a patent, and you'll be fine. I have Suedes in patent, a few pairs at least, for that reason. Now, if you're someone who has a wide foot and you can really only fit in an Ariza, that tends to be what most wider feet girls have to do or have to opt for getting Louboutins, they can get it in a suede and they'll be able to actually wear it and enjoy the shoe. So style is something to think about, but really it's going to be the shape of your foot that determines it, which is why I say wide foot girls might want a suede Ariza, or someone like myself might want a Kate or a So Kate. But I'm going to talk about this particular material. It is surprisingly sturdy considering it is such a soft, buttery Nappa leather. I mean, there are imperfections on the leather, like what will happen when you wear a shoe half to death as much as I have these. But this, the leather will stretch and conform, and these I was able to wear straight out of the box. I know that's not going to be the same for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different experience in their shoes, but these, no break-in, so no break-in for me. So for some people, it would be less of an amount of time to have to break them in to make them comfortable for you. So if I had to kind of put these on a roster of comfort, then I would say the suede is the most comfortable. The Nappa is the second runner-up, and obviously the patent is going to be the least, since each one tends to become more restrictive. But that being said, on the opposite end, the most durable is going to be the patent, and then the Nappa, and then the suede. So along with getting a style that's going to suit your shape of foot, you also have to think about what is going to work best for the type of person that you are as to how you wear and take care of your shoes. So I hope that helps you. I hope that helps someone out there, or you just like to watch me talk about shoes. Of course, I will try them on for you so you can kind of see how each pair looks on the foot, or I should say each material looks on the foot. But other than that, if you have not already, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my Patreon. It is only $3 a month, and supporting me means I get more shoes to show you, so it's a win-win. Now, I will be linking my Poshmark closet, and if you want to support me further, then go ahead and check that out. If you purchase something, I will definitely appreciate it. And other than that, let's get into the try on.
Here I am in my patent leather 100mm Pigolfolese. So the patent leather is really going to be best suited for people who have anywhere from a narrow to an average size foot. These do break in, and they can break into maybe a half size larger than your actual size, but unless you really stretch the shoes, they're not going to stretch to a point where they size out too big for you. And the durability of the patent leather does really impress me. I can really wear the patent leather and it doesn't really get too messed up. I will say that color transfer is a thing in the darker colors, but if that doesn't bother you, then you should be okay. Now here I am in my Kate 100s in Nappa leather, and this material has really surprised me. Now as far as durability goes, it's quite durable for such a buttery soft fabric, and unlike the patent, you don't have to worry about color transfer, so that's always nice. Now these you can definitely stretch more, so if you wear them too often, then you might have them get a little bit too big on you, but I don't think with Louboutins that's that big of an issue, or I would just recommend that you be a little bit more mindful about the style you're getting when you are purchasing your shoes. Now here I am in my Angelina 100s, and these are in suede. The suede is very delicate. Luckily, the few imperfections can't really be seen from too far away, which is nice, but this is also a fabric that if you have a wider foot and you really are just hoping to squeeze your foot in a pair of Louboutins, then the suede might be best for you, since you're probably not a person who's going to have to worry about the material stretching out on you to where they get too big. If anything, you probably really want them to have a lot of give. So the suede might be good for you. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next pair of shoes.